Well, good morning, everyone. Yep, we made it. Today is the last day of school. I hope you have had an absolutely amazing year. I have loved that I've gotten to come into your classrooms each and every day with one of these videos. It has been so much fun to talk about character, to talk about books, to have our students leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and maybe being a little misty eyed a little bit for those golden buzzer moments. But I want to just thank you. I want to thank you for an absolutely amazing year. It has been an extreme honor to be your principal this year. I am so grateful to every single one of our staff members who have put their heart and soul into this year, and for these students, to our families, our parents, grandparents, everybody who's been involved in helping make the We Are Weaver family just such a cohesive unit during a really, really challenging year. And congratulations to all of our students, especially our fifth graders. We wish you all the best as you get ready for your next big adventure of middle school. We know you're going to be amazing. And to kick off this year, to finish this up, we have a couple of things. First off, we have a brother and sister duo. We happen to have one of our promoting fifth graders as well as one of our Los Al High School seniors who's a Weaver alumni. We have Milin and Tai Vu to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we finish up that book, Song for a Whale. You'll get to hear from me as I'll be reading chapters 45 through 48. And then we have field day today. And then at 10:15, you get to get out of here to go have an amazing summer vacation. So again, to our teachers and staff, thank you from the bottom of my heart for just being there and getting through this and doing an absolutely amazing job for these kids. This is a year to remember for our students, our TK through 4 students. We look forward to seeing you back in August when we get to kick off a normal school year. We're really looking forward to it. Have a great day. Have a wonderful summer. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, everybody.
Good morning. My name is Milan, and this is my brother Ty.
Hi, I'm a Weaver ambassador in Mrs. French's class.
I am a Los Alamitos graduating senior and a Weaver alumni. In the fall, I will be attending UC Berkeley as an electrical engineer and computer science major. A favorite memory of mine from Weaver is my 5th grade talent show, where me and a couple of friends decided to do synchronized swimming, and it was such a blast. Congratulations to everyone who made it through another year at Weaver, and have an amazing summer.
Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remove all hats and hoods and place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated, and thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to do our school pledge right now. And we're going to go ahead and start up at the top. And what's in red? So if you want to start with me there, that would be great. Ready? Begin. This day has been given to me fresh and new. I can learn from it, or I can throw it away. I will choose to do my best in thoughts, words, and actions. Today, I will be a star. I will stop, think, and act responsibly. Nice job.
Weaver whales, yeah, we're Weaver whales. We're the smartest creatures in the sea. Weaver whales, yeah, we're Weaver whales. We're gonna be the best we can be. You know this day has been given to me fresh and new. I can learn from it or throw it away. I will choose to do my best in thoughts and words and actions. Today I will be a star. Yeah, I will stop, think, and act responsibly. Weaver whales, yeah, we're Weaver whales. We're the smartest creatures in the sea. Weaver whales, yeah, we're Weaver whales. We're gonna be the best we can be. We're gonna be the best we can be. We're gonna be the best we can be. Weaver whales!
Hey, everybody. I'm so excited because we are now at the end of our One School, One Book Read Aloud for Song for a Whale. So I am really excited because I get to end this with you. We're doing chapters 45 through 48. Here we go. Chapter 45. The first thing I did when I got back to school was hurry to Sophia Amalia's room. I had to make it quick so I wouldn't be late to Miss Khan's class. Everyone kept waving and trying to talk to me in the halls, which slowed me down. As soon as she saw me, she stopped writing on the board and grabbed me in a tight hug. Everything I thought to say to her disappeared. How could I explain what she'd done for me? If she hadn't shown the Blue 55 documentary, I wouldn't have known about him. We wouldn't have found each other. He'd still be out there on his own, not knowing anyone heard him. And I wouldn't have known that anyone heard me. Sorry for missing so much school, I wrote on the board. I'll catch up. Thank you for teaching me about Blue 55. I'm so happy you're all right, she wrote. I hope you found what you're looking for. I started to write that yes, I'd found the whale and played the song for him, but Miss Amalia knew that by then the news had spread out about where I'd been. She must have meant something more than the whale. Yes, I did. I gave her another quick hug before running off to Miss Khan's class. Nina signed welcome back as I slid into the room, and it wasn't that horrible. At the last second, I dropped into my chair and Mr. Charles and I signed together by a hair. So much had happened in the time I'd been gone, but I could count on Miss Khan and her pickle face to never change. Miss Khan gave us time to work on our reports during class, and I needed it with all the catching up I had to do. Since I knew so much more about whales than I had just a week earlier, I thought the report would be easy to write. Then I found there was so much to say about them, it was hard to decide where to start. I took out my notes and added what I learned from Sura about bubble net feeding. As I wrote about whale communication, I kept thinking about Grandpa and what he told me about the sei whale that day on the beach. A whale can't find its way through a world without sound, but it's different for us. Mr. Charles tapped my desk. When I looked up, he signed, "Are you thinking about whales or something else?" "Both," I answered, "whales and my grandpa." Mr. Charles smiled. "What would he say about the trip you took with your grandma?" On the flight home, Grandma had asked if I'd thought about talking to my mom about going to Bridgewood. I wonder what made her think of it then. The trip didn't have anything to do with that, did it? I didn't like the way my stomach felt when I thought about going to a new school with new people, even though we'd share a language. Grandpa had told me I would find my way, even though it might take time to figure things out. Maybe finding your way sometimes means you can't stay where you are. Grandpa would want me to do for myself what I did for the whale. She is responsible. Think of all she did, all she figured out on her own. Grandma was in the living room talking to Mom. I'd called her and told her I'd been thinking about what we discussed on the plane. I did want to go to Bridgewood. From the upstairs game room, I had a view of the conversation if I peeked through the railing. Sure, she shouldn't have taken off like that. The whale song moved her so much she couldn't help herself. Grandma didn't sign move as in moving from one place to another, though the song did that too. She touched her heart. Mom wiped her eyes with a tissue Grandma handed her. I always felt so left out the way you and Dad could talk to each other, the connection you had with your deaf friends, like you have with Iris now. I'm sorry, Grandma signed. We didn't mean to leave you out, and no one means to leave Iris out either, but it's happening. I don't want to lose her if she's around other deaf people all the time. She won't need me anymore. She'll always need her mom. She's already lost spending every day with people she can't talk to. Don't you think Iris wishes she could see that whale every day? But she didn't try to drag him back here to live with her. She helped him feel more at home. Mom didn't argue with that. It seemed like the conversation was winding down, so I backed away from the railing and went to my room, where Mom found me a few minutes later. Grandma thinks you want to go to Bridgewood. She looked like she was trying to laugh a little, as if she wanted to add, "Isn't that ridiculous?" She also looked nauseated. There was my chance to back out, to pretend that it was some crazy idea of Grandma's. I'd already hurt Mom so much. But then everything would go back to like it was before, all day, every school day, with no one but Mr. Charles to talk to. The thought of going to a school where I hardly knew anyone was scary, but it was better than the dread I felt about spending my next years of school like the last ones. If Blue 55 could find happiness hanging out at the sanctuary with animals he'd never met, I could be happy at a new school. I set aside the electronics parts I was pretending to organize and sat on my bed next to Mom. The origami whale was perched on my nightstand, worse for the wear from the swim in the bay. Grandma had remade it for me on the plane after I unfolded it to let it dry. She offered to make me a new one on paper that wasn't faded and blurred, but I wanted to keep the one she'd made on the ship, the one that was with me when I met Blue 55. After a deep breath, I told Mom, I do want to go. I want to be around other deaf kids like Wendell, people who speak my language. I speak your language, she answered. I know, and I'm really happy you do. And that Dad sort of does. But you don't have to unless you decide to. You know it's different for deaf people. I can't keep going through the school day all alone. I think it'll be hard for you starting over with so many new people. Every day is hard. Mom rested her head in her hands, and I leaned over to put my arm around her. I tapped her leg so she'd look at me again. Even though it might give away that I was watching the conversation downstairs, I told her, you'll never lose me. I'll always need my mom. Chapter 47. I opened a chat window and found Wendell online. Guess what? I typed. You hitched a ride on an African safari and you befriended a cheetah? Close, I answered. I'm going to Bridgewood next year. Wow, really? That's awesome. So you finally talked to your mom. Yeah, she doesn't like the idea, but she said, okay. I'm going to be nervous, though. I'll hardly know anyone. Yeah, unlike where you are now, most popular student, class president, and all that. I sat back and laughed. If Wendell were there, I'd throw a pillow at his head. So how grounded are you? He asked. Forever. See if your parents will let you stop by sometime, he added. My mom said I can invite you over for dinner to welcome you home. I think she was worried while you were gone, so she wants to see you too. Okay, I'll try. Any cool planet sightings or eclipses to see? Not this week, but I'm pretty cool, so you could come over anyway. Good enough. I'll stop by whenever my parents let me out of their sight. I was elbow deep in a radio when Tristan came in. Ready to go? Almost. I signed with the leather gloves still on. Really, the radio would take a lot more time. In some parts I didn't have yet. I'd take it back to Mr. Gunner after fixing it. Probably. Tristan helped me straighten to my workbench and put things away. I let him, even though he didn't know where to put everything. He set the radio on an empty spot on a high shelf I pointed out for him. The repair would wait for another day. Time to take Grandma to the beach. Grandma and I walked to the dunes to pick wildflowers for the grave of Iris the sei whale. I filled her in on how Blue 55 was doing. His tracker app showed he was still hanging around the sanctuary, though he'd swim away sometimes and return later. Andy had forwarded a recording of the song I'd made to the staff there and talked to the acoustic biologist about how interesting it would be to find out how Blue 55 responded to it. Through an underwater speaker in the bay, they played his song sometimes. Other sanctuaries along his route would do the same when he swam in their waters. An update on the Lighthouse Bay website said that he'd visited all the sea pens. Sometimes he and Mara swam together. How long would he stay? Would he return to the sanctuary every year? It was impossible to know, but it'd be fun to find out what happened. Grandma squeezed my hand. You did a good thing. Thank you so much for going on this adventure with me. It was exactly what I needed. Even though Grandpa wasn't around to enjoy it, I feel like he's with me again. I think when I was that sad, there wasn't any room for him. Now there is. Then she told me about her new home. What? I replied. A cruise ship? Full time? How? I didn't know how people could do that. Apparently, she'd been looking into it. Not many people lived on cruise ships year-round, but it was possible. You saw how happy I was. I'll be at sea all the time. It doesn't cost much more than Oak Manor. It's just for a year. Then I'll decide what to do. A year. So many days without Grandma around. Do you know my favorite quote from Moby Dick? She asked. It's not the one about the drizzly November and the soul, though I like that one too. It is not down on any map. True places never are. Where we travel together isn't on any map, and I'll get to keep it with me all the time. The wildflowers we left on the whale's grave rolled across the sand, then a gust of wind blew. I rearranged them and stuck the stems into the sand while I thought about what to say. Grandma couldn't leave. Yes, she'd been really happy on a cruise, but a whole year away from us? She tapped me so I'd look at her again. And this way, your mother won't worry about me wandering off. Not far to go on a ship. Is this because of what I said in Skagway, I asked, about living on a ship if you hit a big win at the casino? You know I was kidding, right? She nodded. I know, but what after what I've done, how could I stay? Think about what it'll be like. She held up a hand, 2 fingers pointing at her own face. I lifted my hands to argue with her, then let them drop to the sand. She was right. They'd never take their eyes off her. A few days later, an envelope from Benny arrived in the mail. She'd emailed to ask how I was doing, to get my home address so she could send me something. Inside the envelope were some photos of the cruise. One was of Benny and me sitting on a deck together. In a photo I hadn't noticed the photographer taking. I looked happy. In another that was taken from the deck below, I was by myself looking out over the water. I'd probably been wondering where Blue 55 was and if I'd find him. I'd give Grandma the picture of the two of us from our first day on the cruise. She could keep it with her while she sailed to wherever she'd be during the next year. The last picture was of Grandma performing in the karaoke bar. I tacked it to my wall. Whenever I felt sad about Grandma being away, the photo would remind me that she was where she needed to be, not a place on any map. Chapter 48. Mr. Jackson said I could ride with her and Wendell to school. I do that most days, but for my first day at Bridgewood Junior High, Mom wanted to drive me. She parked at the curb and waited while I sat there looking out the window at all the students heading into the school. Was this what I wanted? I didn't know any of these people, but I could. I hadn't known anyone at my old school either, not really. Here, I'd have a chance. Mom touched my arm. You know you can always change your mind, she signed after I looked at her. I know, I signed, even though I wouldn't change my mind. She smiled and pointed to the front door of the school. I turned to see Wendell wearing his I Need My Space Saturn shirt and waving to me from the top of the steps. I laughed and leaned over to hug Mom. She held me like she didn't want to let go, but would do it anyway. As soon as I sat back, I threw out an I love you, leading her to it. You're going to do great, she signed as I opened the door. Across the street was the elementary school where Mr. Charles would be working. Knowing he was nearby helped me miss him a little less. Before walking up the steps, I turned back to wave goodbye to Mom, but she wasn't looking at me. She was watching a group of deaf students standing under a tree. I wonder what she was thinking as they hugged and signed to one another. Maybe she was seeing what I'd be able to have, what I'd be a part of now. Even though she wouldn't see me, I waved goodbye to her, then started up the steps to my new school. A sound can move anything if it's strong enough. It can shake walls or break glass. It can knock a whale onto a new path. It can pick someone up and carry her far from home where she doesn't know anyone. The vibration of the whale song would stay with me always. Blue 55 had found a new home, maybe some friends. I would too. The end. I hope you've enjoyed this book as much as I have enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed our guest readers. And I really, really just hope you take the lessons from Song for a Whale and take them with you wherever you go. Have a great day, everybody.